to talk about a few trades that the Raptors can do because, as we know, their front court is lacking. They've got some good players. Baines has kind of become a lot better in the last few games. He's definitely improved and stepped up. Boucher slowed down a little bit, but Toronto could use another guy in there, just one other person who can either be a 4-5, something, a small ball 5, or just like a traditional big man who you can run a lot of pick and roll through and is a little active in terms of being on the glass, the offensive boards, defensively, and then also active in that pick and roll. So let's talk about the first trade. I posted all these to my IG too, so check out my page if you haven't seen them. First trade is JaVale McGee for Patrick McCaw and a second-round pick. This is a no-brainer for Toronto. You get to add JaVale McGee to the mix. Obviously, a guy who's won a championship with the Golden State Warriors, a guy who brings veteran leadership, an active rim-running big who can get offensive rebounds. He's honestly the perfect fit for Toronto to be either a starter or even coming off the bench. It really doesn't matter. He can kind of slot into what Baines does now in that Baines role and doesn't have to shoot threes. Like, we don't need him to shoot threes. He's not supposed to. He can just be a guy who runs pick and roll, catches lobs, tries to grab offensive boards, and tries to protect the paint as well on the defensive end. So I think he's a good fit for Toronto on both ends of the floor. He brings it on both ends. And for Toronto, you don't have to give much back. A second-round pick is enough to sweeten it for them to dump JaVale McGee, a guy who doesn't really play in their rotation, a guy who's not part of Cleveland's future. And they're just a team that's trying to acquire assets at this point. I think a nice second-round pick, you can make it unprotected. Just kind of give them that pick, or maybe make it lightly protected, and just slide that over to them in exchange for a guy like JaVale, who, like I said, is a good poised veteran leader now, and obviously got a lot of criticism early in his career through, Shaqtin' a Fool, stuff like that, but he's proven to be an integral player in the NBA and can be in a rotation for a championship. The next guy is Ken Birch, who is on the Orlando Magic. He's another rim-running big, another big body guy, Canadian as well, so he's got that Canadian connection. Maybe he'd like to play in Toronto, so you wouldn't have to worry about him being the kind of guy to walk. Maybe you could sign him long-term on a pretty cheap deal as well. And it's the same trade package too. You can feed them Patrick McCaw and a second-round pick. And as we know, the Orlando Magic are kind of at this inflection point where, three of their starters basically are out right now. Markelle Fultz, obviously. Aaron Gordon, we saw him get injured in that game. And so they're really missing a lot of their key players right now. And as a result, they're going to be looking to probably start moving some of their big guys. Whether it be an Evan Fournier gets moved and traded back for some assets, Nikola Vucevic gets traded, get back some assets in return. So Ken Birch is a guy that would be easy to grab, like I said, just attach a second-round pick to a contract that fits like Patrick McCaw and get him back so that they can start building towards their future. For the Orlando Magic, they can start building around. They can probably try and trade, Vucevic, Evan Fournier, all those guys, and just start building around that Markelle Fultz core, a couple other draft picks, tank this season, pick up a top 5 pick, and move forward from there because they clearly haven't done it yet. They're kind of a team of mediocrity. Definitely worse than the Toronto Raptors are this season, who are, one of those top 6 teams, but they're just under that level, right? They're a level below in that 7-8 seed range. So for me, if I were them, I would just tank it. Why not, right? You're not going to win a title, so you may as well bottom out, get some assets, and pull together a new core, because this core with Vucevic they've had for a long time, it doesn't really fit, it doesn't work. The final trade, which, you have to give up a little more, but I think you're getting the best player in return. It's Raptors get PJ Tucker, and in return they give up Stanley Johnson, Pat McCaw, and a second-round pick. You're giving them a wing defender who can kind of help with that core that they currently have, with Christian Wood out there, with obviously their backcourt out there in Houston with Victor Oladipo and John Wall. And then the Toronto Raptors get back a big who can, and I say big, but he's more like a 4, but a guy who can play center a little bit, can be a small ball 5, a big body, can shoot the 3, especially in those corners, stretches the floor for a guy like Pascal Siakam, and plays really hard-nosed defense. Toronto had him back when they made the Serge Ibaka trade, and it was a good move at the time. He was a little ahead of his time, and he really peaked in Houston, and he's still a really solid player who you can add to be a role guy at that 4-5, a guy who can grab rebounds, help box out, play good defense. He's actually the perfect fit as well for Toronto. So I think these are 3 small little trades Toronto could consider doing to buff up that front court a little bit. And, you know, you're not giving up too much in these trades. They're just minor moves that, like I said, will buff it up, add some rim protection, maybe some defense, and help you defend guys who are big, athletic rim runners, which Toronto struggles with. Thank you guys for listening. I really appreciate it. I'll catch you guys on the next episode.